So the thing is, like, palace dramas, like your big kind of Game of Thrones and your Shoguns and things like that, are actually a lot easier to get your head around than you'd reckon. All of this, like, intrigue and assassinations and spying and shit, it's actually, okay, so let's take, like, an English-based peerage system here. We're gonna have, say, barons and counts and earls and then dukes and then the monarch. Now, you can have more layers or fewer layers depending on, like, the size of a nation or something like that, or how easy it is to get information from one place to another. So you've got your kingdom and you've got your barons, and they're in charge of, like, a couple of villages or so on. Then you've got your next level up, and they're in charge of, like, a couple of barons. Maybe, I don't know, however many, they can manage. Then you've got your next level and your next level. And then you've got your dukes, and your dukes are the overlords of, like, a big chunk of your country. Let's say you're the monarch and you've got 8 dukes. Your country is generally divided into 8 large parts. Maybe seven kingdoms. Now, like in Game of Thrones, where you've got like 7 parts of a larger kingdom, an empire, maybe, I don't know, depends on how people see themselves. You as a monarch, unless your propaganda is really, really good, a duke's, underlings and their people may be more loyal to them than they are to you. And in Game of Thrones, this is really obvious. The North is more loyal to the Starks than they are to the Crown. Same goes for the Lannisters, pretty much everyone, really. So let's say you've got about 8 dukes. Your job as monarch is to make sure that no 3 or more of your dukes can fucking stand each other. Like, you want them swearing blood oaths every 20 minutes. Because do you know what it's called when 3 of your dukes get along? There's a word for that. It's called a coup. It's you getting bloody Sean Beaned is what it is. It's your kids. It's everyone you said so much as howdy doody to. They're all dead. So it's your job, as much as it is anything, to make sure that these big factions can't fucking stand each other. So how do we do that? So one thing is with wards and marriages and like hostages and things like that. So you might take like Keith's favorite kid and marry him to Dave, and those two fucking hate each other. And then Dave's favorite kid, you'll marry him to Damo. No one likes Damo. Then, if any of these guys start starting a conflict, you've got preemptive hostages. And wards are the same thing. Theon Greyjoy, right? It's basically like, all right, I need to keep you in line, so I'm just gonna like take one of your kids, and so don't get any ideas. Didn't super work with Theon, though, right? Because nobody bloody likes Theon. Oh, he didn't have the best time, did he? See, ideally, if none of your dukes get along, if they absolutely cannot stand each other, none of them get along, then the person with the most actual tangible power ends up coming out on top, which, as the monarch, is you. So what else can you do to make sure these guys can't bloody stand each other? Something I don't see enough are black flag operations. Like the Crown organizing like a raid on the Starks, for example, and blaming it on these other guys. Or like raiding the Lannisters and then, making it look like it was the Starks, but then being like, you know what, I actually think it was these other guys. Make sure that everyone is suspicious of each other, so none of these dukes can really trust, even when they seem to get along with each other, whether or not if they were going to try and, accumulate support to do a coup, whether or not they would actually end up coming out on top or not. And here's the thing, this is happening at every level. So you've got your dukes and then you've got your earls. So these earls are looking at their dukes and thinking, it's like, you know what, if you just fell down some stairs, I think I might benefit from that. So let's say that the duke has like 8 earls under them. Let's just keep the maths easy. So you're an earl under like the Starks or something like that, and you're actually getting along pretty well with some of your other earls. So you reckon if the Starks were to kick the bucket, actually the king would be like, hey, you're actually looking like you could organize this area, you can be duke now. So you, as the duke, you can't have that either. You have to do the same thing that the king has been doing with you guys, with your underling. Because each step up has like so much more, just exponentially more power. Everyone's got a little bit of ambition. Even Keith! So everyone, as part of the peerage, is constantly worried about someone knocking them off. And they're constantly having to set other people against each other. And you might think there often is like, one house that kind of generally gets along with everyone. You can't have that. Because it's happened like a bunch of times, like during the Roman Empire or something like that. There've been like a half a dozen emperors in a course of years. And then everyone's just like, well, who's left of the emperor? It's just like, hey, Claudius, do you want the job? And Claudius is just like, I fucking guess. No, we can't even have any Claudiuses around. We need to make sure that everyone knows that if you get knocked off, it's going to be worse for everybody. I tell you what, Brennan's Crown of Candy, the Candyland Game of Thrones, does this pretty bloody well. So like in the second episode, they're attacked by a group of assassins. And like, so they looked like these guys, but they turned actually to be these guys. And so we know it's a black flag operation, but is it the flag operation of those second guys? Or is it someone else that just hired some of those guys? Well, gee willikers, Batman, this is all very confusing. In Shogun, they actually do a really good job of this, right? This is kind of spoilers, but like for the very first part, really. So like, there's 5 regions, and one of the regions is like, all right, we want to get rid of this guy because he's putting together too much power, right? But hang on, if I get rid of that guy, then like I'll be the strongest, I'll be the biggest dog in the group. But then like I might have the biggest army, but these 2 guys, they get along a bit too well. And like I can probably take one of them on, but not both of them on. So if I take out this guy, and these 2 are definitely gonna kill me. I don't even know what Keith's doing. Like there's even a part in like episode 2 or something like that, where it's just like, all right, I bloody want this guy dead. Oh wait, no, hang on, that has consequences for me. Right. So like from the perspective of like any one kind of in the middle lord, right? You're there just like trying to make some alliances, trying to, you know, secure yourself in where you're at, when the people above you and below you are trying to make it absolutely impossible for you to make those alliances. Because this constant level of distrust, it actually weirdly maintains a status quo. Because we all like a status quo, don't we? I mean, you do when you're the one in power, sure. So go ahead, go write a political intrigue novel, I bet you can do it. Just start off with some names. Just like write some bios being like, okay, so Damo, and Damo hates Keith because Damo thinks that Keith killed his favorite kid, but actually it was Steve-O. Now Steve-O also hates Keith because Steve-O thinks that Keith killed this other guy, and actually he did. That was the only thing that actually makes sense. And then Bazza doesn't fucking like anyone. Constantly paranoid, and he should be. Honestly, I bet if you spent like 10 minutes being like, okay, so this guy hates that guy because of this thing, and then that guy and that guy, I bet you'll be like, hang on, I'm seeing an interesting story. I bet if we put just like a random lord in here, we could do something with that. I bet it'll be great. I'm gonna go watch the rest of Shogun.